Welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin.
You want to wait for him to?
Oh, sure. You good? Phoenix is ready. I think we're good. He gave me the thumbs up. Okay, we'll start again. Welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin.
I'm Johnny.
And we'd like to welcome back a good friend of the show and a great podcaster in his own right, Phoenix Clouden. How are you doing, my good friend?
What's going on there? Super excited to be back here once again.
We're
Feel like my absence has been extended for a long time.
right, and for really good educational purposes. But we had you on for Ghost, which is a great conversation, and it introduced the word Swayze into our vocabulary. So I'm glad for that. And then we had you on for Willy Wonka, which is and the Chocolate Factory, which is a huge mind bender of an episode, especially with your viewpoint of the movie being evil, right? And so that was our horror movie. That was great. And so we're looking forward, like I said, to your hot takes. Today we'll be covering A League of Their Own from 1992, directed by Penny Marshall, starring Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Lori Petty, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, David Strathairn, and Gary Marshall. Again, a very popular movie. I think the stats talking baseball, that it's the most popular movie about baseball ever made 132 million, I believe, U.S. money. But before we go into that and our history of the movie Phoenix, one of the things we talked about last time, and again, it's so great to have you back on. It's a welcome face, welcome voice. But you were studying, you were getting your degree in film, right? We talked about that, and just within the last couple of weeks, you donned the cap and gown and you graduated. Tell us a little bit about that great kind of achievement.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. Anytime you put in the work and then you see it pay off, it's amazing. Like it really didn't even hit me like until like the day before that I was like, oh, like this is over. Like you do something for so long and then all of a sudden like it's like, all right, now it's time to move on to the next thing. It's like gobsmacking. But yeah, it was a great day. Had a lot of fun. My family showed up, so that was super just awesome and encouraging and stuff. And yeah, so next is, to get the bachelor's and keep pursuing the dream.
Is is there a big film scene where you are, or do you got to go to LA to get a job?
Like it's actually a burgeoning film scene. So like it's there's some stuff that happens here. But like, to like make it, yeah, I would probably have to go to LA.
Gonna make the journey, huh? Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Well, what was your, I mean, you, when I first met you, when I first started talking to you, you already had an encyclopedic knowledge of movies. You already had a great opinion of movies. What was, again, the decision why did you decide to basically go back and get a degree in this field?
So it was sort of an epiphany actually because uh it was the idea like, hey, I love movies, I love these things, but I'm not seeing enough of the stuff that I love. And I'm like, well, there's only really one way to combat that is you got to make it yourself. And so um I was like, I just want to go to school, figure out how to do everything that I need to know how to do. And yeah, let it take me from there. I already have the characters in my head, I already write the story, so I might as well just see how to get this officially done.
Okay.
Nice. So you want to write and direct and act too, maybe?
I would love to write and direct. Acting, I think I would be fine in, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll
Well,
probably act in my stuff. I don't know if I can act in anyone else.
oh, well, you're charismatic, so I'm sure that would go over really well. One of the things that the three of us haven't talked about, and it's weird considering how long I've known you, and we've had this is our third, like I said, conversation for Nostalgia Cast. Johnny and I were also big drama geeks when we grew up. You actually, last time we talked, you just ended, I believe, Film Code. We hadn't talked about Curtain to Curtain, and that was a genuine delight to find out that you're actually doing another podcast, again, covering Broadway shows. But you talking about like your connection with Broadway was actually kind of a thing. You and Lazuli, obviously, it kind of blew my mind. So I was like, well, we haven't talked about that. How have we not talked about that, right? But I mean, explain to us a little bit of your drama background, and then maybe we can kind of get nostalgic about our kind of history with musical theater before we talk about
Yeah.
Curtain to Curtain.
So the school I went to, the high school I went to, had a drama club. It wasn't exactly like theater. It was plays. It was mostly plays. We didn't do a lot of musicals.
Okay.
So that sucked for me because I'm a musical nerd. Like I that's my bread and butter.
Awesome.
And I really wanted to get on stage and perform in that way. Um, my co-host Lazuli went to a school where they did have a theater program, but she was too scared to get on stage, so she did band instead. So the idea when we came together to do the show was like, here's two people who really wanted, to get their Broadway chops in and who never really got the chance. And so we're like, well, why don't we just get together and talk about the musicals that we know and love? And that was basically the idea behind Curtain to Curtain. And yeah, just ended up becoming, you know, this show that we do. We try to do it every 2 weeks, I think. And yeah, where we're just discussing a lot of shows that we've seen. Some we've only listened to, and picking out the themes and trying to dissect them and gather that thought. So we've done 25, I want to say 25 episodes, covering over like 56 different shows. We're
Wow.
going alphabetically, so we're going A through Z, and I think we're somewhere in the J's. Like, yeah, so we're deep into it. It's a ton of fun.
So
Yeah.
what is the format exactly for your podcast like, and how'd you decide what the format was going to be?
So it all depended on the shows. So it took us a minute to gather the list of shows that we wanted to do, and depending on the length, we decided to cover two shows an episode. And we started with a couple of numbered shows. So it was like it was 21 Jump Street and 36 Questions. Super random shows. Like I don't even think I had heard of them up until that point. But yeah, so we decided it was going to be two shows an episode. We would go through the music, the stories, the performances, and just as the musical nerds that we are, and picking out exactly what works, what doesn't, why, and figuring out who are some of our favorite performers, because we're big on that. And it's led to us going to see Broadway shows together when they come to town.
Huh.
That's
That was
been
the next
that's
question.
been a blast.
Do you
Yeah.
travel to New York to Broadway to watch the shows, or are you just seeing when they come to your
Usually when they get here, like if we get any bigger, then hopefully that's the goal, honestly, to see something on Broadway. That would be ideal.
have you ever been to Broadway?
I have.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I ended up seeing Rent the last day it was playing,
Hmm.
like permanently, like right before it shut down. So
Okay.
that was huge.
So
Nice.
your format for each show, how did you come up with the idea to do two at a time? Was it just you didn't want to do like 96 episodes, or what was the idea behind that?
Yeah, because well, the first two shows we did, one was literally only like 15 minutes long.
Okay.
So it was like we're not gonna spend an hour on a 15-minute show. So so it was like, well, we can just end up doing two, and that was like, you know what? Let's just do two every episode because that makes a lot of sense, and it gives us more shows to cover, more music to listen to, which we're never gonna we're never gonna be mad at that.
Right, right. Well, again, just looking, I think you only have, you say 25 episodes, but I think I only have, for some reason, 20 in here. So you've probably got a lot backlogged that you haven't
Yeah,
released
we're
yet.
backlogged. We're
But like,
backlogged like
if you're
crazy.
looking at, you talked about 36 Questions, 21 Jump Street, you also did Aladdin, Anastasia that my son was just in. That was his first
Nice.
play in high school, so he was in that. Annie Get Your Gun, that Johnny and I were actually in for a summer production.
Whoa. Who did you play? Who did you play?
Johnny, who did you play?
Buffalo Bill.
And
Ooh,
I played Sitting Bull, actually.
nice.
I'm not sure, like you and Lazuli saw the 99 revival. I'm not sure what they changed because I know I'm an Indian too was part of
Yeah.
the production that we were in. What did Sitting Bull, was he in the actual play or did they write him out completely?
I think they wrote him out completely.
Okay.
Yeah, because even that whole song I think is taken out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sitting Bull is actually half American, half Chinese, so you were perfect for the part.
Sure.
Twin.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that wasn't avoiding controversy there. Also look like Catch Me If You Can, like Cabaret, like Chicago, Cats, like all the things. I didn't know Death Note was a musical. That's interesting.
Neither did I before we did the show.
All right, so always a new thing. Grease, obviously, which you're not a fan of the movie, and we talked about that last time, how that Johnny and I are kind of pained over it. Hamilton, obviously, that was my other question here. Like you, obviously, these plays aren't all in Ohio. How some of these plays, like you've seen them when they come, you've seen them like on. How do you actually watch these plays? Because there's access. Like Hamilton, obviously, was made for Disney Plus. They shot
Yes.
it for that,
Well,
but
like some are actually available to watch. Um, Others, there's high school productions, so you can see a lot of the same stuff is in the high school productions. There's some bootleg recordings of the actual shows. Those aren't as great though. And then there's others that we genuinely can't see, and like all we can do is like listen to the music for. So that's made a few episodes a little rough, but then for the most part, the ones we can see have been fantastic.
okay. Well, you and Lazuli have a really good dynamic, like a back and forth. But especially with the Annie Get Your Gun episode, you had different approaches and you had different feelings about the play itself. Like you loved it. It was like your as of that point, it was your number one musical, like that you'd watch. And she just didn't jive with it. But that happens naturally. But what
Yeah.
over the course of your 25 episodes, like, and since you know each other so well and for so long, like what do you learn anything from having like different opinions or different approaches to the plays? And like, how do you guys kind of deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah, like we're two very different musical fans because she's really into sung through musicals, and I'm one of those people who's like I desperately need a book. So like I need the book and the music to be separate. So like that's one of the big things that we're very different on. Because yeah, sung through musicals, like unless they're done by Lin-Manuel Miranda, are probably not going to work for me.
Okay. Well, there's different, just like movies, like movies have different acting styles, different film styles, like when they first started out, and there's been an evolution. So people that watch, that are like born after 1990, are only familiar with certain movies from a certain time period. When they watch a 50s movie, they're like, their minds don't quite compute. I don't know if that, because it doesn't
Right.
match what they're watching now. And I think that's the same thing with musical theater, with plays, because I think Lazzuli's pushback on Any Get Your Gun, again, the way that it was with the book and everything, there's a very 50s style to that way of singing. I just don't think that she jived with it, but that's again an interesting perspective to come at because there's different kind of musical language. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, and as we've gone further, we've come across a lot of older musicals that I think like much like with music, much like with movies, styles has changed a great deal, and storytelling, ways of storytelling has changed a great deal. So like sometimes the things that worked really well when they came out don't work as well anymore, and it really comes through. That's always a bummer, because you hear about a great musical that's lasted all the throughout all time, and then you see it and you're like, not so much.
Right. It's just
Certainly how I felt about Cats.
that's actually what I thought. Cats is a very yeah, that's a stream of consciousness kind of
Yeah.
play. Like there's no real structure to it. So yeah, that's very interesting. Again, I love that you're this is what you've moved on to because again it took me as a genuine surprise. Oh, musical theater, but you know your stuff just like and you have these wild take, not wild, like you have your specific takes, which is one
Right.
reason why people kind of gravitate to you so much. But I mean, Johnny, what was and then I'll ask you, Phoenix, what do you miss most about musical theater? Like the excitement that Phoenix has in his podcast, way that he's talking. I mean, what is that something that you miss, like the being a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's the curtain call when you get the applause afterwards. That's my that's the best part because that's the rush. I love performing, but I love the rush you get from the applause from the audience. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing like it.
Your episode 25, did you say you were in the M's or you're in the J's? Where did you say you were at?
I I'm so because we're so behind. I don't know which one is up and which one is next. So
Okay.
so I think we're in the J's technically, but I don't
Okay.
think I think we're still in the H's as
Yeah.
opposed to what's up. Yeah.
The one you have now is Hello Dolly and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which makes
Yeah.
quite a double bill. But once you get to Manila Mancha, is Manila Mancha on your list, or is that one that's not like readily
Man,
available?
I would have to check because like yeah, we have so many.
Right.
I think at last check it was like 200 and some shows.
Right.
So
Right.
so it
Okay.
might be on there, but yeah, is no way of knowing for
Okay.
sure.
Well, Johnny saying that curtain call and the applause, like I was the innkeeper in Manila Mancha and just having a solo and belting out a song and then finishing and on a high and having people break into applause. There's nothing like that. There's a high that you get from that of doing a good job. But your Phoenix, you talked about your acting skills, maybe directing movies, but what is it that you miss most, say, about being a drama kid?
Uh I miss the camaraderie. Like the people that you work with, it's such a collaborative environment and like I think that's also why I gravitated towards like filmmaking because it's like you have to work with everyone. You got to work with set designers, you got to work with costumers, you got to work with pit crews and music coordinators and stuff like that. So it's a wholly collaborative environment. Everyone's doing their absolute best to make sure that everything works, goes off without a hitch. I'm admiring of it, and I love participating in it because you feel very accomplished when it all goes well,
Yeah.
like extremely well. To get to that point where you're at the curtain call and everyone's applauding, it's the most satisfying feeling that there is.
So my question is, which play was your favorite play that you'd been in?
I did West Side Story.
West Side
Oh,
Story?
Yeah,
okay.
Wow.
yeah,
You play
yeah.
in
I played one of what's his name? Bernicio, what
Bernard
is it? Bernardo.
Bernardo.
Yeah, I
that?
played one of his goons. So
The shark.
I had very few lines, but I got to do like a lot of the dances and some of that. So I was ensemble for most of that, but it was great.
Dancer, writer, director.
Yeah.
Well, again, the thing that's great about Curtain to Curtain, number one, is me being such a fan of yours. It's great having your voice out there and your attitude and again, you're very, you people gravitate to that. It's very engaging, and so it's fun having you out there, even if it's not like film. That obviously we connected, and it's still great that you have such a strong opinion and such a strong connection to musical theater. And again, it's great hearing your voice. I can't tell you how great it was to hear you on Binge Movies just recently for the
Oh yeah.
2008. And I'm just going to tell you because we talked about last time how you had a list of movies that just didn't work for you, and there were a lot of those movies that Johnny were like, oh no, like, but opinions are opinions, right? And I'm just going to tell you, I've waited. I haven't listened to your discussion of The Dark Knight yet because I didn't want
Oh.
to have any of these hard feelings going into this episode. Even though like I told you, I think I direct message I went and cut to the end just to see what your final thoughts on them. And so that's fine. Like a 7 out of 10 is fine. But what's fun about that episode, and I can't remember, I just remember like some of the movies looking, I'm like, oh boy, I would not want to talk about some of those. Like you did, Hancock was one, right?
Yeah.
And
Mamma
then
Mia,
Mamma Mia,
uh,
ooh boy,
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
and Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah,
The funnest part of that episode is when because again, what you do is when you rank them, you rank the best, and I think you had Kung Fu Panda as your top movie,
yeah.
and Jason was like, "Oh no, Darren Lundberg is rolling over in his grave, like he's having a heart attack right now." But it was like, opinions are opinions, and I'm going to respect whatever you think. But Kung Fu Panda, if you're going to pick one of those movies, like, and you pick Kung Fu Panda, great. I have a really strong connection with that movie. So again, it's not so much about and your Hancock discussion, your Mamma Mia discussion, how it went so far off the rails. It was so fun to listen to. But It's just at the end of the day, it's the fact that you have these opinions, and I've said this to you countless times before. It's that opinion that we really love, and that you feel so strongly about these things. So again, it's great having your voice out there. But with A League of Their Own, I wanted to kind of go into each of our histories with it, and then we'll kind of talk about the history of the American All American Girls Professional Baseball League. That's a mouthful. And then Phoenix, you had a connection to baseball that you want to talk about before we talk about the actual movie. But again, Phoenix, what we're doing this season, we had you on last season for our 70s kind of roster, and that was fun because a lot of the movies in the 70s are very influential, were influenced and are very influential. And
Hmm.
then the movies that influenced Johnny and I the most, like we talked about with Ghost, are these 90s movies. So we wanted to revisit the 90s in an interesting way. And so John and I came up with a bucket list where these movies that we always wanted to talk about, let's go ahead and reach out to our guests. We made a list of movies we want to talk about for each year. Let's reach out to our guests, see what movie they want to talk about. I know that you and I had talked about you coming on for League of Their Own in the past. So that was obviously the first choice for that. But as far as these movies go, why would A League of Their Own, and you can even talk about baseball right here, we'll just take it as it goes, but why is A League of Their Own? Why was that the movie that you most wanted to talk about for this season of our show?
So it's funny. I'm thinking about this, and I don't know if this is just a. It's probably just me, but I've done several podcasts of people that we know. Like obviously, I was on Jason's. I've been on Roberts, and I noticed that like when it comes to a lot of the movies that I tend to gravitate towards, it's oddly a lot of movies that are about women,
Mm.
and I don't know if that's from me watching Golden Girls as a kid all on TV all night, but yeah, like those are the stories that I tend to really really like a lot, and when it came to this one, like it combined three things that I really, really love, which is, you know, a female centered movie, sports movie, and Geena Davis. And it's like perfect. So yeah, I fell in love with this movie growing up as a kid. And I think for me, the hardest thing about this movie, the thing that stuck with me forever, was that I could never tell if it was a real story or not.
Ah,
Like because it so closely ties into the actual real story of the All American Girls Baseball League, but I didn't know if this particular story was real or not. And so like having that mystery like really I guess connected me to this movie a great deal because I'm like, I don't know, I loved it and I didn't know what was real, what wasn't, and I've been a fan of it ever since.
right. Johnny, what about your memories of League of Their Own? What do you have for us?
Well, I've always really enjoyed this movie. I grew up playing baseball. My dad was a baseball player. I grew up playing little league. Um, I, I I love playing the game. I still like to go out and throw the ball around with my kids whenever I can, if they will come out with me.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, I mean, I always loved the characters, the story. I think I like that it is based on real events. Um, it's just an all around good movie. Like I don't get tired of watching it whenever it's on. I was going to watch it because I've seen it so many times. I thought, I don't need to watch it again. But I thought, what the heck? Let's put it on. And I found myself getting sucked into it again. And so, and at the end, I had tears in my eyes. So it does that to me. It just makes a feel good movie. I think it hits all the right beats. It's just a fun, good time.
Yeah, it's nostalgic, right? They lean into the nostalgia of just not only playing. I like that it's a flashback structure so that we meet the characters, but then we meet them as older women, older funny women. So that's a very strong pull of nostalgia in the end. I think that's why it kind of makes us tear up. My memory of the movie is I saw this in theaters because Tom Hanks was a huge deal, and it's obviously seeing the next Tom Hanks movie. And I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the comedy. The thing that's interesting about this movie, Phoenix, like you talked about, is a lot of movies, though they're in for an audience, is it's giving you an inside baseball look at a topic that we're not familiar with. It's funny that the All American Girls Professional Baseball League was, around since the 40s. I think it was running from 1943 to 1954 while the boys were all away at war. But this was the first when this movie came out. this was people's first time hearing that the women actually had their own baseball league back then. And
Mhm.
so I think it's an important movie from that aspect. I know that they had like a documentary that they aired on PBS like right before they made the movie, but no real big kind of conversations about this. And so, as far as opening up a world, I think that's very important. Just a little bit of history. Like I said, it ran from 1943 to 54. I think the Harvey Bar guy, the guy that Gary Marshall plays, that's a stand-in for, I believe, the Wrigley, the guy
Wrigley,
that,
Philip.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. And so it was formed by Philip K. Wrigley, Branch Rickey, and Paul V. Harper. They were afraid when the men were being shipped off to World War II, baseball is a very lucrative kind of business, right? And so they were worried, how are we going to keep this going? And so obviously bringing in women was the next kind of the idea here. But just like they show in the movie, there's a lot of things that I thought were interesting that kind of tied with real life. Like people would show up just for their first games just to watch and laugh at them, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then eventually they took the world by storm. Like people started realizing, oh, girls can actually do men things, right? It's like it's a very interesting, like you talked about Phoenix, about women. It's a very interesting turning point in history because now women are starting to take advantage. I think Ebert in his review said it's interesting how these women don't really take this seriously. They're waiting around for letters from their boyfriends. Geena Davis, like Dottie, actually leaves because her husband comes home, right? It's not
Yeah.
it's transitioning from not from being only seen in the kitchen, I guess, to being seen doing other things. So I thought that was really interesting. But again, like you're talking about real life stuff. Jimmy Dugan, Tom Hanks's character, is based on ball players Jimmy Fox and Hack Wilson, who were like drop dead drunks. So that
Yeah.
kind of ties it. Dottie Hinson was based on Dorothy Kamenschek, who played for like I think 6 years. She was a first
Mhm.
baseman. They switched it for the movie so the sister story, pitcher and catcher, could have a little bit
Right.
better. But they started out with four teams. It was the Rockford Peaches, the South Bend Blue Sox, the Racine Bells, and the Kenosha Comets. I think we only really talk about Racine and Rockford in the movie as far as name dropping. But again, I think, and then by 1948 they had 10 teams, so and 900,000 attendees. So it was building up steam. But yeah, they attended regular charm schools. They, you know, tried to prove themselves by being able to play. I think they had like cut corners as far as what men's baseball was versus what this game was. But again, all that very fascinating time in history. Again, from that perspective of the women liberating themselves and realizing that they actually had a stake in the world, right? I mean, your connection to baseball, Phoenix. So, what you wanted to talk a little bit about that? What about baseball is so attractive to you?
Well, yeah, like much like Johnny, I played also as a kid, mostly little league and stuff. And it it you're 100% right. Like this was my introduction to finding out that that women had a professional league. Like that was something that I hadn't known. But also when I played little league, girls played with us. So it was
Hmm.
never like that they couldn't play the game. Like it was never a thought of that. And so like seeing this movie, what I love so much about it is it's a time capsule about so many things, and baseball I think is honestly probably the most equal sport out of all the major sports that we have. I think baseball is probably the most equal one. So to see like all the hoops that they had to go through to like be considered athletes, ball players, I was like that's just an amazing time capsule. It is also like fascinating that like we don't have to do that anymore, but it's still somewhat of a struggle for some people to see women as ball players, which is crazy to me. Is very insane.
You actually had girls on your baseball team, little league
Yeah,
team? Like, really?
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Just for having that. Well, baseball is the all-American sport. Baseball was the only sport that I played that I felt like I was natural at, or at least I didn't care what I looked like. I had so much
Yeah,
fun playing baseball. Field of Dreams is my favorite movie of all time. It's not necessarily a baseball movie, but it has baseball as a backdrop as the backbone of America. Like it's as apple pie. It's like what we
yeah,
depend on. It's dependable, and so that's why they wanted to keep that going. Like you didn't want to lose that kind of connection to America while they were off fighting the war. But
exactly.
a lot of like I said, what this movie should do is should at least, open the door for more of your knowledge. And I love movies that do that, but are entertaining in their own way, right? It's fascinating, again, watching the facets of this, watching the women who only are used to working in speakeasies and finally have, the Madonna character, all the way May, she actually has some identity playing this game. Right,
Yeah.
the Rosie O'Donnell character, Doris, she's just good at the game, and so she's able to do it. And then you have again, facets of everything. You have that partner in the montage where you see the black people are just they're sectioned off. It's still, we're segregated. But she throws that ball and it's like, yeah, women can play baseball. People of all colors can play baseball. But it's interesting being this time capsule that some people just weren't allowed to do stuff like that. I like that it touches on all of that. Phoenix, what are your thoughts on the all encompassingness
Yeah,
of
I
this?
especially love that moment in particular because I saw an interview about with Penny Marshall where she talked about it, and specifically, there's so many things that she wanted to put in the movie, and she really wanted to include that because it's like she didn't want it to be this pretty sort of complete overglossing of history, and like you notice like maybe it wasn't something I noticed as a kid, but it's definitely something I noticed as I got older. Is like there's no black women who wanted to play baseball,
Yeah.
and it's like no, they did. It's just they weren't allowed, and so I love that she included that scene because it's like it's something that at the same time you're celebrating this accomplishment, this wonderful accomplishment that happened. You're also acknowledging like it wasn't all what it was supposed to be at that time. But I think that's just it's a figment of that time, which again is like perfect for what the movie is as a time capsule, discussing like that period and everything that went with it. I i have nothing but like love and admiration for this film.
Yeah. And again, all aspects. It's this the girls being able to play is opening doors. That's what the whole movie's about. And so
Yeah.
it's the history of our country and everything and the way doors were open, the way people are able to participate. That it touches on that. And so I love that the screenplay does that. Johnny, what about your any thoughts on the history of this and how like what are the particular facets of this that you found fascinating about it that you wouldn't have learned if it hadn't have been in this movie?
Well, like you guys, I really didn't know too much about the girls baseball league as younger, as a kid. But this movie did introduce me to that, and show me what actually took place and what went on. And that's what's fun about it. You get to watch it and you get to think, oh, this actually happened. And I don't know, I never had any kind of negative thoughts about women playing baseball. Like it never even occurred to me to think that they couldn't do it or that they shouldn't do it. It was kind of like, well, yeah, that makes sense. We all like playing sports. If you're athletic, you're athletic. It's just how it is. And so it makes no difference to me whether you're male or female. Recently, my daughter had to go to school and dress in the uniform that she wanted to be for her career when she grew up, and she chose baseball player. So we
Nice.
made this baseball outfit for her, and she went to school with a baseball bat and a hat and everything. And when she walked in when we were watching this movie tonight, I was like, "Hey, this is about women playing baseball." She's like, "Oh, really?" And she came in and sat in my lap and watched the end with me. So I don't know. I mean, I like that it's kind of inspirational that it has, it can inspire women to, you know, go out there and do what they're good at.
Yeah, it's also kind of sad that people still have that outmoded idea when they see, your daughter dressing up. I'm sure there's people going, "Why are you dressed like a baseball player? Like, shouldn't you be like a waitress or something?" Like, there's still going to be that ingrained, that stupid backwoods, like I'm never going to grow up kind of idea of things aren't always equal and shouldn't be equal, that kind of thing, right? It's the same thing with like the inception of our podcast, Phoenix, is the female Ghostbusters movie where it
Oh.
had, the regardless of how that movie plays, I showed it to my family and my kids, my third oldest, when the part where they're all suiting up at the end of they got their proton packs and they're shooting ghosts, my son started shouting, "Yeah, Ghostbusters." And it was like he has no like
Right.
connection or any kind of disconnect between that. He just sees them as Ghostbusters. He doesn't see them as women or men. I think that I really love that moment that women can play in the same sandbox. It's just weird that we've made all these strides, but still there are people that are living in the 40s and 50s and have that same kind of attitude. I don't know. It's really strange that there's like that.
Yeah, and I love the point that you touched on that. Like even back then, it wasn't like a massive priority to them. Obviously, like you see some people who took it very seriously, and then there's some people who's like, this is just what I do until my husband comes home, and it's a very real like look at that time period, which is like, yes, there were, structures set in place that kept women in certain boxes, but also there were women who were very comfortable in those boxes and wanted to return to those boxes. And that was all they really knew. And so like I love that again, I think I love the way that the story's handled because it's like it doesn't gloss over anything. It doesn't try to paint such a pretty picture that it ignores the reality and tries to make it seem like there weren't women who wanted this. There weren't some who wanted something else. There weren't some who were half in, half out. Um, and there weren't women who were discovering new things about themselves as well, because that also is in the movie. So yeah, I think just the way it handles each aspect for these women, for their lives, for the time period, is just very deftly handled.
Yeah, and even so, even though we've covered on like the black experience, the female experience, I think the TV series that was on Amazon, they also touched on the LGBTQ experience. Like you had some lesbian players that were in there. I think they even had I think there's a movie on Netflix called A Secret Love, but it's about Terry Donahue and her partner Pat Henschel, who actually were in a relationship
Yeah.
as they were playing. They met in Canada, and they were together for 71 years, even though that wasn't really talked about back then. So even so, it covers a wide range. The movie covers a wide range, but there's still aspects that, can be covered elsewhere, I think. I don't know if there would have been, maybe there's too many characters in the movie. Maybe there's not a place for that, but still, there's still a wide range of history that's not covered during that time. But again, looking at this movie, Penny Marshall, John and I have talked about this before. We did a mini episode on Big. Big was the first movie to gross $100 million at the U.S. box office that was directed by a woman. And it's
Mm.
funny that just 4 years later, League of Their Own became the second movie directed by a woman to gross over $100 million. So
Amen.
again, yeah, yeah. Very, very important that's in here. And the screenwriters, I wanted to give a shout out to them because they were very prominent during the 90s. You had Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel. If people are not familiar with them, they actually wrote Night Shift that John and I have covered. They wrote Splash. They were nominated for original screenplay for that. Parenthood, it's maybe Ron Howard's best movie. City Slickers during 91,
Oh,
Mr. Saturday Night, Multiplicity, and Robots.
publicity.
Yeah, and the Tooth Fairy, is that the one with Dwayne Johnson? Anyway, so I guess they kind of went downhill, but during the 90s and the 80s, they were very prominent, and I think they've got some good comedy chops in here. A lot of my favorite, there's some really funny stuff in this movie and really funny lines here, but as far as that goes, Phoenix, your thoughts, what are some of the joys of this movie? What are some of the more like funny comedic moments for you?
Oh my God, there's so many. Like it's crazy because it's played sort of like a period drama, but then like it has so many like ridiculously comedic moments. Any moment with the little kid stool angel.
Uh-huh.
I, I hated that kid as when I was I hated him so much. Oh man, but like
The
it's
note I
great.
have here is this might be the only movie where I'm actually okay with like men and boys being hit by objects, like baseball mitts and baseballs. That's a really funny moment when they take him down. But yeah,
Oh yeah, because he's the worst. But like, it's so funny like now in hindsight because you're like, yeah, man, you gotta smack that kid. One of my favorite scenes is when Tom Hanks as Jimmy Dugan is introduced to the team and he comes in and has like that long extended urine session and I'm like it's so funny to me because like after I saw this movie I kept trying to time my my
I
wizards
think
to
we all
see
did. I think
yeah,
we
to
all
see
did.
how long it went.
Yeah.
I was like, anytime I couldn't get to like a minute, I'd be like, like, drink more water. Like,
I went a whole day and I still didn't match what Tom Hanks did in that movie.
When I watched it, I timed it. It was like 51 seconds in the movie that he did it
Yeah.
for. I was like, I
wow.
don't know. I gotta know how long it is.
Well, the funny thing about that scene, I'm not sure if they'd seen it, but the Naked Gun from the file from '88 actually does that same joke, where Frank Drebin is at a press conference,
And
and you see
the
him
whole
drinking,
mic,
and then
right?
he walks off without taking off his mic, and so they can actually hear him peeing. But it goes on forever. It even has the same gag where he stops, but then he keeps going. It's kind of the same thing. But then again, I'm not trying to pick on A League of Their Own, but Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, it also does that same joke where he's revived and he
Yeah, yeah.
pees and he stops and he drizzles and then it keeps going. It's like, well, what is this like a thing? Like, were we just trying to top like each, you know what I mean? I just thought it was kind of interesting that they had like the same joke, but I believe I believe the backstory is that Tom Hanks had no idea how long he's supposed to do it for. Like Penny Marshall, I think, just poured something in a bucket, like it just kept going, and so Hanks was like improvised. Anyway, so that's a really funny thing. Johnny, were there any scenes that stand out for you in particular,
Oh
comedy
man.
wise?
Well, you mentioned the writing. First of all, I think it's an awesome script. Like you said, Phoenix, it's really funny. There's some really good, moments in here. And it always has me, cracking up throughout. And even though it has like the heartfelt stuff too, and you kind of have those little, the montages and the lulls and stuff, it's the comedy for me that makes this movie. Like just the one-liners. I mean, John Lovitz, man, like he's not in it for very much, but he just crushes it. When he's on screen, I'm dying. That whole first part where he's trying to recruit those girls, and oh my gosh, every line he says is just, hilarious. And the way he delivers it is just perfect.
Oh yeah.
I think what's funny and what I wrote down is like it's so funny because he's saying the things, and that's what comedy is, right? He's saying the things that we think but don't say, and he actually says them, and you're like, I can't. So part of you is like, I shouldn't be laughing at that, but man, that was actually pretty funny. Like, oh, that would bruise the hell out of me, that kind of thing. But Phoenix was, I think, my favorite. I like the tickle pickle, or I that really gets me. I don't know why, but Phoenix, is there a particular John Lovitz line that cracks you up?
Oh Jesus. Oh man. I there's so many, but probably when he finally leaves them and he's like, trying not to get choked up. He's like, go play, do that. I hate it when they get attached to me like just great stuff. He has so many great lines throughout. It's crazy. I'm almost mad that he's not in the movie longer. Like he
Yeah.
probably should have popped in at least once or twice before the end. Cause yeah, his character's so great, so well written.
Yeah.
And yeah, he kills it. The delivery's insane.
Well, Phoenix, just for a preview, like we're gonna ask you to do a quote from the movie at the end of the movie when we sign off. So I'm just gonna incept that in your mind right now to start thinking about a line to say. But Johnny, was there a particular John Lovitz line that you liked?
The "Hey cowgirl, see the grass? Don't eat it." That's my. I mean, I quote it all the time.
Yeah. Well, even the part where he finds Marla, like I get that he's got a job, and that's the first scene that kind of really the heart of the movie, I think, really comes out. More than we'll talk about it, like more than the sisters. I think when Marla and the way that her dad is trying to explain it, like, look, I raised her the only way that I could. I raised her as a
Right,
boy, right? Don't make her suffer because I made a mistake and didn't make her wear dresses and didn't make her, beautiful. Like she can play, right?
right.
And I think though. I think that my favorite line is when they're finally ready to go and Marla's ready to get. She says goodbye to her dad, and Lovitz is like, "See how it works? Is the train moves, not the
Not the
station.
station.
Just move it along." Again, it's really funny. Again, the Gans and the Mandel stuff. You look at City Slickers, you look at Splash, you look at Night Shift, and Parenthood. They had I don't know if they just tired out or maybe they just had stopped having things to say, but as a time capsule for their writing, I think it's really great here. Let's talk about the acting since we've already kind of broached Lovitz. I think with Lovitz, Phoenix, you said something about him not being in the movie that much. I think it's nice having him there while Hanks isn't there because it gives you
Mm,
like the male perspective about how he's Lovitz is in his own world, right? He doesn't, he's completely different. But I like that he's there. And then by the time he disappears, you have the montage where the girls are, they got spring training and they get called for the team, and then Tom Hanks's character is revealed. What about, I guess the three people we want to talk about: Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Lori Petty, maybe Madonna. I guess my thoughts here is the whole movie for me. I really like it from the Tom Hanks perspective. I
mm,
love his character of it's maybe the top tier version of this guy is an asshole, but because he's played by a really good actor that we love, we're going to stick with him through all his assholeness, knowing full well that he's going to become, a likable guy. Which is kind of what Will Smith was like in Hancock, right? You stick with him because you know he's going to turn out to be good. But I love his arc. He's got some, I don't know, the limp that he has. I think that's a really good thing. I like that he goes from obviously not respecting but just being an asshole again to being on their side and having Dottie be his assistant manager. I like that they grow into that relationship. I really like all that stuff. And then obviously like the scene in the movie, the scene of the movie for me is when he's yelling at Evelyn, right? And he's doing his job, like he does whatever, and he's finally getting into it, right? You have that funny scene where he and Dottie are trying to outsign each other. I
Yeah.
really like that, but he proves that he's a good manager. But he's still at least stepping up. But he's got things to learn. I like that he's yelling in Evelyn's face, just like he would yell at a male ball player, right? And when he walks off and she's bawling, his line, there's no crying in baseball. What's so funny about that is he's not trying to be a jerk there. He's genuinely confused. It's like, there's no crying in baseball. Like, what's happening? He's genuinely upset that this is happening, right? I just thought that line delivery was, and that scene was so funny, especially the way he gets ejected out of the game. All that is just so great. But Phoenix, your thoughts on Tom Hanks?
Oh, Tom Hanks is probably one of the top three greatest actors of all time. And you wouldn't think that this movie, which is, it's not a deep, heavy emotional drama, but like he brings such gravitas to it that's insane. And like it's very comedic. It's a great comedic performance, and he still finds like emotional beats in it to just deliver such great lines. When Dottie's leaving and like he like sort of gives her like the reality check that she needs. Uh Speaking of quotes, that'll probably be the quote is for me is it's supposed to be hard. It's the hard that makes it great. Like that's amazing. And then he delivers that line so very well. So like yeah, in terms of like Tom Hanks' performance is phenomenal, and he's got so many comedic moments throughout like that are insane. The signing scene is great. Just after he's yelling at Evelyn, he tells the umpire that he looks like a little penis with a hat on. Like just great stuff. And like, yeah, he's funny throughout, but just knows exactly where to land it. It's a tremendous performance from him.
Well, the thing that's great, like you talked about with the it's the hard that makes it. He cares about baseball. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a jerk. he's an asshole, right? But he cares. When he says that there's no crying in baseball, that's because he cares about the sport. And he's like, I don't understand this why you're so upset because I get yelled at. I don't cry. And it's the same thing when he's talking to Dottie at the end. It's like you're leaving, you're quitting. It's like you're great at this. You know you're great at this. Don't just settle into your role that is expected of you. Jonny, what about you? I know we've talked about Tom Hanks before being comedy versus drama as far as an actor goes, but what are your thoughts on him in this movie?
Well, I think this is Tom Hanks at his best. I mean, I love this kind of Tom Hanks, the comedic Tom Hanks. The many pits and the bigs and the splashes and those are what I look for in Tom Hanks' performance. I don't necessarily like the ones where he does the Da Vinci codes and when he gets all serious, like I can just take him or leave him. It's like, okay, whatever. He's still good. It's just I don't want to see that in Tom Hanks. I want to see this, performance where he can really get into it and really kind of like just give it his all and just make me laugh. Like that's what I want. And he's so good at doing that. So keep doing it. If you can do it, do it. That's what I say.
The part at the his arc again with Evelyn when he's
Yeah,
so
he's trying not to
yeah,
yell at
he's trying so hard, and you could tell that she loves him for it. And by the
her.
way, that's Biddy Schramm. I'm a big fan of her in Monk. Like she's
Oh,
was
she's
Sharon in that.
so great.
So great and so funny. But it was great seeing her here. But when she walks off and he's still so good, so funny. There's so much energy that he's putting into that. And I just love that. Again, with Geena Davis, I think the note that I have is they've got some real chemistry here. You can tell Tom Hanks is one of those actors, and I think Geena Davis is the same way, where it's hard to not have chemistry with these people, right?
Mm.
And there's when she's on the bus with him and they're getting to know each other, and she gives him the Coke bottle or the root beer bottle instead of his flask, and he does the thing, and the smile on her face is so genuine that I don't feel like it's act. I don't know if he planned doing that, but and then later when she supposedly disappears and she comes back and they're like, "Well, who said you could play?" Like, "Well, if you don't want me to play, I won't play." Like, "Oh, well, if you want to." Like they have that great and I don't know, I really felt that from them. I don't know if there's supposed to be a romance between them, if that what we're supposed to feel. Phoenix, what do you think about that?
I think it was probably suggested, but I don't think she went with it. Like, for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But originally she wanted Demi Moore in the role of Dottie, and but Demi was pregnant at the time. So then she went to Deborah Winger, which would have also been pretty interesting. I
Yeah.
would have liked to have seen that. But thankfully she settled on Geena Davis because I think what works with Geena is she's got the stature, like such an incredible stature of a physically imposing sort of player who like you could believe is that talented.
Statuesque. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, and yeah, her chemistry with Tom Hanks is just top notch, but also her chemistry with Lori Petty is fantastic. And like their dynamic as sisters, you would never believe they were sisters looking at them because
Yeah.
they're so vastly different in stature. But like their chemistry together was fantastic. Like the way that they played off of each other, I thought was really, really genuine. Um, and lasts about as long as it's supposed to. And like their reunion at the end, that's where the tears come because it's like it's been delivered so incredibly well up to that point.
Yeah. Johnny, did you think they were did you feel a romantic chemistry from them, that Hanks and Davis characters, or did you like that they didn't head that route? Did you like that Bill Pullman kind of comes in and sweeps
Yeah,
off her feet?
I did. You do feel it. You feel sexual tension between the characters, and they do a good job of making you feel that. And I'm glad it didn't go there though, because I think that would have been like like a stain on the movie if they had gone
Hmm.
that direction. It would have kind of brought the movie down. So I'm glad that they kept it light and she went back to her husband and all that stuff. But you do feel it, and and they do a great job of building that. So I mean, I think it's important. I think because you wouldn't be human if you didn't have feelings about people that you meet or interact with or work with even. But yeah, so I like it. I think they have great chemistry. I think Geena Davis is great. In fact, I think I heard a story once about Rosie O'Donnell saying like when they're on set shooting that Geena Davis better start acting soon. And then she realized, oh, she is acting. She's just so natural.
Yeah.
She couldn't even tell she was acting. So that taught her a lot about how to be more natural in front of the camera.
What I
Which
love, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, I'm done.
Okay. What I love about her though is she, like you said, Phoenix, she came in late in the game after the women had already been practicing with each other. The thing that's great about Davis is, and she didn't even know she had this in her, within a matter of like a month or so, she was already better than the girls that had been already been practicing. She just had that natural chemistry. I know that she had a stunt double for the split because
Yeah,
she could do the split, but she couldn't slide into the split. So at least she
yeah,
had somebody to do that for her. But yeah, and I think she's said interviews where she's had people even to this day come up to her and say, "I play sports because of you. Like you inspired me that much." And I'm like, I'm glad the movie was made just for that, that it inspired
yeah,
other people to do that. But yeah, she, like you said, she's got good. We'll talk about the writing. I don't know if the writing really sells that relationship as much as her dynamic with Petty does. I really buy them and their chemistry together, their conflict. But yeah, Geena Davis is great. We might as well talk about Lori Petty. Phoenix, we already talked about her in Point Break. I think what we settled on, Johnny, is she's got the looks of a matinee star. Like she's gorgeous, like she's talented, but she's offbeat. There's something purposely off about her that she brings on herself. Like she wants to be quirky. She just doesn't want to be normal. And I think this is probably her most normal role. I think she really nails it though. I think she has like the brattiness of Kim. I think she really sells that. And you really feel it when the whole movie, she's just living in her sister's shadow. And even though we don't know if Dottie drops the ball on purpose or not at the end, it's like the fact that we see Dottie looking at her sister actually being celebrated. I think that's what it all comes down to. But as far as Lori Petty goes, Phoenix, what do you think?
yeah, 100% about like movie star look entirely. Like, yeah, but it is something like it's almost like she's fighting against it. Like,
Yeah.
because yeah, she's like such a got an incredible look and just sort of like I'd rather be a side character kind of vibe, and it's worked out for her tremendously, I would argue. She's fantastic here. Like that bratty energy is perfect. It reminded me of I feel like if we remade this today, she'd be played by Florence Pugh.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that sort of bratty energy. Um, yeah, and I think it's great that she has to look up to Dottie. It's almost like a physical trait that she has to look up to Dottie, but it's also something that she plays very well of hating because you're constantly in that shadow, constantly having to deal with it. And anyone who's been a younger sibling knows that life, especially if your sibling's great at something and you're not that
Yep.
great at it, it can nag at you. I think she does a great job of making that trait very relatable.
Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, this is my favorite Lori Petty performance. I
Yeah.
love watching her in this. I think she does a fantastic job. And I agree with you. She is very stunning. I talked about it in Point Break. She has these eyes that just kind of like just grab you.
Crazy. Mhm.
Yep.
But what she does in this movie, I think it's by far her best. I don't think she's ever done anything that tops this. You mentioned her being kind of off, Darin. Uh, I noticed this whenever I watch this movie is her form and her pitch, the way she pitches, it's off. It's not a normal looking pitch. It's got all through her leg flying up like that. It's just weird looking. It's not normal. So you can kind of tell maybe she's not quite as athletic or natural at doing this and she ought to be, but it still works for me though. I still think it works for the character. But I noticed that because I noticed in other movies about sports is there's always someone who doesn't really have the athletic ability that they need for the role, like in Field of Dreams, Darin, when they're playing catch at the end, you can tell that guy can't throw the baseball. Kevin
Yeah.
Costner can, but the
Right.
other guy doesn't know what he's doing. And so you kind of go, okay, you don't play sports. You don't play ball, do you?
Right.
Lori
Phoenix.
doesn't really play ball, but she does well in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Phoenix, I think you put that perfectly too. It's like she's fighting against it. I think that works for the role. Like there's something in her that's just struggling to get out. Like I think
Yeah.
that actually works in her favor.
And
Would
it
you agree with
builds
that?
it builds to that final moment, when she beats her sister, finally beats her sister. Like again, as a younger sibling, I can tell you, like, that's a great feeling. No matter what it is, if you're when you can get your older sibling in whatever it is that they're great at, yeah, it's very cathartic, and that's something else that I wouldn't have expected from this movie because it's about women in the 1940s, but it's a very cathartic movie. Like, and you feel for Kit, you kind of even feel for Dottie a little bit, like torn between what she's really great at and what she actually wants to do. So
Yeah.
like, yes, it's got a lot of relatability throughout, which I just find fascinating.
Something that's rarely mentioned though, Geena Davis too, is she wants the traditional life. That's what she wants.
Yeah.
She just happens to be really good at baseball at a time where she can actually make a statement. And she plays one game, one season. But
Hmm.
when it does the flashback is over, people, oh, she only played one season, but still people remember her, right?
Yeah.
And but you have Kit that wants to break out and not do the traditional thing, and a lot of these other women they also want to do the so again, even though it's teetering on that edge of where women are, like, and the turning point of getting more identity for themselves, there's also nothing wrong with just being the traditional person. That's what you want to do, and that's what she's most passionate about. So yeah, let her do that.
And I
Um,
love that Penny Marshall gives both of them equal representation. Like,
yeah,
it's never like one's better than the other or you should want to do this more. It's like, no, if what you feel is what you want to do, both are valid
yeah,
ways of living your life. And I think that's a tremendous message to put out there in this movie. Is like, yeah, you can do both, or you can do one or the other. You don't have to do any of them. Like, it's all up to you. I think that's just a great message to put out there.
right. Okay, so I want to I don't want to end the talk on a negative thing. So I want to basically give my one criticism of the movie, and then you guys can agree or disagree, and then we'll move on to the stuff that really works for us. The sister thing I think is the most predictable part of the movie. You have basically four storylines going on. You have the All American Girls Professional Baseball League story about them gaining like favor with the public. You have the Strathairn character, the Ira character, about him trying to convince Harvey to keep the games going, right? And he really pushes for that. Even though there's the part where he says in front of Kit, like, "Oh, I told them all about the reporters, like how they didn't even want you, but your sister got you into the, even though he doesn't have tact with that, there's that story. You have the Jimmy storyline where he kind of accepts his role and that he can still be a coach for these people. And then you have the sister thing. So for me, the least affecting thing for me is the sisters, even though I think that the actors do a good job. I just think the more scenes that you get, I understand where the story is going. I completely understand where the story is going to end. Like it feels to me like, oh, she's on another team. She's a pitcher. Dottie's a catcher. That obviously means if they're in the World Series together, it's going to come down to a final thing. So all that kind of clicks into place a little too obviously for me, even though I think the conviction of the actors and of the way they play it, I think works. I just think that that's the weakest part for me anyway. Phoenix, what are your thoughts on that?
I actually agree. I do think that's the more formulaic aspect of the film, but I don't really consider it a negative because I'm looking at it like, sometimes formula's great. Like, what I'm saying? Like there's a reason why it's formula.
Yeah.
So I think it works in that aspect. Like, yeah, we're gonna get to where we're familiar, but that's okay because I like you said, all the other stories also matter and they're also very interesting. So um I see it definitely. I can agree that it's probably the weakest aspect, but it's also not so bad that it takes away from the movie.
Right.
At least for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree. I think I actually like this part of the story. I like the back and forth with the sisters, and I think that it allows for some really good, acting because you have these, the conflict, and the script is so well written
Yeah.
that I think without that story, or if it was like tapered down, it wouldn't be as effective. I think that's the drama side. That's what keeps me invested anyway. Like I like the other stuff too, but it's like that sibling rivalry that I think is what kind of keeps me engaged.
Yeah, that's very engaging. I think my brain just a lot of times is okay. Let's get back and see what Tom Hanks is doing. You know what I mean? I'd rather be watching that stuff. But that's like I said, it's very sincere. It's part of the movie, the fabric of the movie. The two things that I really love about the movie, and then I'll ask you guys what your favorite things are. I love the baseball scenes. I think they've got a real energy to them. The way that the editing kind of has the speed. It once the girls get more confident, the editing gets more confident, right? It starts
Yeah.
building up speed and picking up the pace a little bit. The Hans Zimmer score, Hans Zimmer, I don't think he knew anything about baseball when he was signed off for this, but I think he's got a real good all-American feel that matches the images. I think even Penny Marshall was like, "How did you do that if you didn't know about baseball?" I was like, "I don't know." Like it just seemed your images really fed into that. But there's especially that montage. I love that montage that starts off with all the girls in church, and Jimmy comes up and is like, "Come on, there's a game. Like God knows we have a game. Like it's not like any of this matters." And then he does the cross and stuff, so you can tell he has that respect. And so I love that whole thing and the way that they're picking up speed with the crowds and just like I said, the editing really picks up. I think there's really good energy to the baseball scenes. Penny Marshall did a fantastic job. She slows down for the drama. She lets Tom Hanks and his physicals, he lets him do his physical stuff, gets his whole body in the frame, but she really knows how to pace those baseball scenes. And the other thing too, like Phoenix, you talked about with being in plays and the whole drama side, the camaraderie of the girls in this movie. I know we haven't talked about Rosie O'Donnell. Who does the Rosie O'Donnell thing? I think she was one of the great 90s sidekicks, right? Madonna is there for, I guess, box office. I think she's the most maybe amateur. You can tell that she's not really, kind of there, stuff like that. So that's really maybe a negative, but she's not really, it seems like maybe a lot of her stuff is on the cutting room floor. But the camaraderie and the way that everybody respects each other to the point where you have that probably the most heartbreaking scene of the movie is when they're singing the song or whatever, and then the guy comes in with the telegram. You do the whole thing where Hank says, you can tell Hanks loves these women now because he's like, just give me the telegram. Like we're not doing this. Like we're not doing this to them, right? Takes it. He has that long walk down where you think it's Betty Spaghetti or it's Dottie, and when he hands Betty the letter and he says, "I'm sorry," and she loses it, right? You get the reaction of everybody else. You see Doris, crying, and I think what's great about that is these girls, they don't just there's an intrinsic kind of respect they have for each other because they're all trying to do the same thing. They have the plight that they're after, right? It's the women's lib, it's the being looked down on, but they start to appreciate each other. They start to love each other to, like I said, to the point where this actually affects them because they know the pain that's out there. They know what they're up against. I just think that camaraderie is really great. And they don't even blame Dottie at the end. They're obviously angry, but when she loses the game or whatever, they're still not mad at her. Like again, May says, it's okay. Like it's all right. Like we all played a good game, right? It's that kind of thing, right? That camaraderie that they build and the way that Hanks ties into that, and he's, at the end, he's like, I turned him down because I already have a job, right? It's that teamwork. Phoenix, as far as your favorite things about the movie, what are this being again a bucket list
Yeah.
episode? What are the things you've always wanted to say about this movie, especially
Oh
from
God, there's so many things. Like I think for me, it's just such a well constructed film. Like if you just take like the first, I want to say 20, yeah, about 20 minutes of the movie is so vastly different from what happens afterwards. Like the recruiting of them to get to the baseball field. Once they're at the baseball field, turns into a totally different movie. Like style wise and everything, tone wise, it's a very different movie. I would argue that first 20 minutes is less comedic than the rest of the movie. It feels very harsh, very sort of sad. I actually, you could argue it's one of those films where if you didn't know what it was going to eventually become, would look more like a dark period drama. So I love that it switches tones. It fits what comes later fits everything fits. It's such a strong like written story, and I'm always impressed with it because so many aspects of it work so well together. That camaraderie, I think of two major scenes is them singing the theme song together. That's just amazing. But also that the I guess juke joint scene where they're all dancing.
the reason you
Um,
cast Madonna, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I love it for Marla. I love it entirely for Marla because Marla finds someone to love her, and she's singing the song really badly, and it's just beautiful. Like it's and especially because you have Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell dancing with the soldiers or whatever. And Madonna supposedly this sort of wanton woman, I guess you could call her that,
Yeah.
and Rosie's sort of reserved and she's supposed to be married, and and she doesn't have the look that obviously Mary has or any of the other girls have. So there's a little self-confidence issues there, but they're all having a great time. They're all having a great time and they're bonding with each other, and then Marla finds love, and it's one of those scenes where you're like, you have the freneticism of the baseball games, you have the drama of the league trying to stay open, and there's in the background there's that feeling of this will end eventually, you know what I'm saying? Like whether it ends after this one season or however long this lasts, this will end. And so them having that moment where they're like everything's just good. We found love. We're happy. We're all settled in and enjoying each other's company. I think that's a scene you absolutely have to have in this movie because it's the scene that's going to bring the smiles. It's the scene that's going to stick with you for long periods of time. It's the scene that's going to bring you the most comfort because you're like that's what you want from your group of friends. Whenever you're engaged in a shared activity, you want to be vibing on the same page, having a good time together. That's what you always want. So I love that scene in particular.
It's you can see the girls becoming more confident and finding their place, right?
Yeah.
Marla, she's she's kind of a one joke character, right? I do like the line with the newsreel was like, and what about Marla Hooch? Like, what a hitter. And she's all the way out there, right? I don't know if you could have kept that joke going for the whole movie. So as writing, I think it's smart that they kind of write her out, but they do it in a way that, again, when she's singing to her lover, I can't remember his name, but it's
Nelson?
Nelson. Yeah, there it is. When
Yeah,
she's
no.
singing to him, I don't think she's unattractive when even though she's singing bad. I think she's gorgeous because she's got confidence, right? She's finally got
Yeah,
confidence in what she's doing. Same thing with Doris, Rosie O'Donnell, when she's talking about her, she shows the cartoonish like photo of her boyfriend, like how he treats her like crap. And she's like, you know what? I'm finding my worth. I don't need
yeah.
him if he's just going to be like that, right? That's all that's great, like you said. Johnny, what about you? What are the things that you love about this movie and always wanted to talk about?
Well, I keep talking about it, and that's the script. I mean, I when I watch it, I actually forget how good it is until I see it again, and I go, "Oh yeah, this is such a good script. It's so well written." And the performances, I think, everybody, even the side characters, have really well developed characters, and they put everything into it. Like Ann Cusack as Shirley Baker, she's
Oh,
so good as
So
a
good.
small part, but she's so good. So probably her best performance. I would even say maybe Rosie O'Donnell's best performance is this movie. Like I don't know, like um, the only thing I don't like is Madonna, and you mentioned it, Darin. But I think she knows she's Madonna, and she's just being Madonna. And somebody else can play that role, and it'd be better if it wasn't her.
well, I guess the story is that she didn't really want to be there. I think she wrote a letter saying like I don't have time for this. Like this
Yeah,
is
you
not
can
me.
tell.
I'm better than this. And she didn't get along with the people in town when they were shooting, so people don't really have nice things to say about Madonna, even though she and Rosie O'Donnell I think are still good friends to this day. But like I said, there's a moment when you first meet her and she's arguing with Doris, which is fine. They have a good camaraderie, but then she does this thing and I can't really explain it. You have to see it where she turns and you can tell she's acting. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't seem natural. There's she has those moments, like it's like we said, Phoenix, when she has the dance off sequence. That's what you hire Madonna for. She's great in that. That's obviously she's going to be good at that stuff. And
Yeah, and
the song,
she was the box office. That was the whole point of having her in there. She's definitely probably the weakest performer
yeah,
out of everyone in there. But like she does two things. She brings you the box office and she's got a killer song at the end.
yeah,
Like that song, honestly, it's weird because it's a very emotional, beautiful song. But like when I was younger, I was like it gave me nightmares. It was such a like haunting song. I was like,
yeah,
oh Jesus, this sounds like a ghost story. But
right.
but I love those two things that she brings to the movie. Is like without her, this wouldn't be a hit, and that's the main thing. It's like this needed to be a hit. It needed to, no pun intended, knock it out of the park
Yeah,
in the box office, and
we're full
like
of baseball metaphors with this episode.
yeah, yeah. And so that more people would know this story, more people would be invested in it, and it would endure as long as it has. And I think I, you know, not maybe not the greatest performer. I think she did two or three other movies after this. She steadily got better, but nothing crazy. But whatever it took to make this a success, I was always in favor of it.
Yeah, she definitely had her part in that. The song was interesting. This used to be my playground because I think for rights issues they weren't able to release it with the official soundtrack. So it was released on like as a single, but also on like the for some reason the Barcelona Olympic Games that were taking place that year. That was released on that album. That was the only way to get it, which
That's
is very
sweet.
strange. But you're right. I think she wrote it with Shep Pettibone. I think that's his name, Shep Pettibone, but there's her normal writer. She was actually doing either erotica, like she was already working on that album, and they asked her. I think Penny Marshall actor asked her to do this song, and so I think they put it together rather quickly. But you're right. The way that the song there's a real nostalgia and a sadness when it's playing over. It's funny watching, funny, like it's fun watching the old women kind of play and like kick dirt at the umpire, stuff like that, and argue and things like that. But again, like you talked about, Phoenix, this is going to end.
Yeah.
This is not going to go forever, and so the song really hits on that. It's like the best time in my life was like 50 years ago, like that.
Mhm.
That's what I remember, and the way that the song kind of abruptly cuts off and the theme just kind of uh, it's haunting, and I think that really works for the movie. Um, what about the maybe the last thing to talk about? You are nodding your head a little bit, Phoenix. What about the music? What about Hans Zimmer's score here? Did you have any
Oh,
thoughts about that?
yeah, like I was today years old when I found out Hans Zimmer just did the score for this movie. And like it's probably part of the reason why I love it so much, because it's like, man, like talk about capturing a mood, like entirely capturing a mood. Like I mostly think to the training montage, right? When they're at the training camp. And it's just it fits so well. Like it literally sounds like 1940s like instrumentation. Like it's
Yeah.
really, really impressive. And yeah, dude is just talent. This is Hans Zimmer we're talking about, man. Like the dude is just amazing at every aspect of that skill that he has, and to as versatile as he is. Because I'm like, I would have never guessed that his name was attached to this movie, but at the same time, I go, that's part of what makes it so good, is because he's here. I'm pretty sure if you take him off and take his score off, maybe this goes down a bit. Like this is probably not as great of a movie, but like he just nails the aesthetics so incredibly well, and it's felt throughout the whole movie. Like yeah, he brings a lot towards the table that I didn't even realize was there.
Yeah. Johnny, what about you? We just talked about Hans Zimmer with Backdraft, and which is my
Mm.
favorite movie score of all time, and the movie that really got me addicted to movie scores. But it's funny that we're talking about the next Hans Zimmer movie we talk about. It's also about sibling rivalry. I think that's kind of
Yes.
funny and a fun thing. But Johnny, what do you think about the music?
No, I agree with Phoenix. I think it's a great score. I think it does a really good job of capturing the vibe, and it just takes you there. You feel like you're in the field trying out with them. You feel like you're in the game. It's just like, man, it's so good, so good.
Yeah, the two tracks, the montage that I talked about, it's I think on the unofficial of the soundtrack that they released the full score, it's Win the Crowd. I love that.
Mm.
Again, with all the way the energy builds. And then I think it's really good because he also gets the sentimental stuff. The Life Goes On track that closes out the movie. It's that integrates all the
Nice.
themes. It's hopeful, it's nostalgic, it's very sad. Like when you find out, and again, how great is it that we meet all the characters as older people, especially Stillwell Angel, right? It's like, and he's got such love for, I think he's being a bit of a drama queen. He's really playing up the fact that he's sad and that his mom isn't there. I think some things never change about people, but you think that maybe Dottie and Jimmy will get back together, but no, you see that Jimmy has died, and you get all the photos, and like you said, the older Kit comes in with her whole family, and they're just reconnecting, and all the bullshit just fades away, and they just love each other because they're sisters, right? And then Hans Zimmer builds to that the final few notes of the score where it shows just them and the photo or whatever. It's great stuff. So again, I think this movie, this is what you go to movies for, right? You want the whole experience. Did we have any, I guess that was my final thoughts on it, but since Phoenix is our guest, we're going to kind of switch up the roster here. Johnny, what are your final thoughts on League of Their Own? Then we'll ask Phoenix to kind of close us out.
Well, I've always wondered this. Is this the only movie where the team loses? The one you're rooting for loses at the end? Or is
You
there other
know
sports movies
what?
where the team loses the big game? Because I can't think of any besides this one.
My cousin, when the movie was out, I'd seen it, and he asked me, he was like, "So just tell me one thing: do they finally win a game at the end?" Like I think he thought the team was bad, and I'm like, "No, that's actually much different. It's a much different tack." But Phoenix, can you
I
think of any other
also don't
movie?
like it. It works. I liked it. It
Yeah,
does
yeah,
what it does. I'm just when you think about it, they didn't win the World Series. They didn't win, but
yeah. And they probably
Yeah,
were.
that's crazy.
I can't,
I
I can't
think
think of any other movies
no,
that.
no. I think this is it. That's if that's the case, that's amazing. Like the fact that no other movie has even tried to do that. Like, yeah, we're gonna make the team that you've been following this whole time lose the big game. Like, and you still come away going, yeah, like, like,
Yeah,
like
maybe winning's not
that's
everything,
that's impressive.
right? So were those your final thoughts, Johnny? Is this the final movie where they
yeah,
lose at the
I just want to make sure I get that question out there.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Phoenix, what about you? What are your final closing thoughts on A League of Their Own?
My final thought is that I don't know why we haven't officially started a women's baseball league. Like this movie came out in the 1990s. Um it's still beloved, and today we don't have a fully realized professional women's baseball league. which I don't get because like we got a women's basketball league, we have a women's hockey league now.
Yeah.
Um, Baseball is the final frontier. Like we've got to. This is something that I think would work. It's something that did work at one point in time. So like I don't understand why it's not a thing today.
I mean, we have softball. They play softball, don't they?
Eh. I'm talking baseball. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, softball works as a college sport. I think that's great. But like, I feel bad for those players because I'm like, where do you go from there? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have a professional league. You don't have a league that you can play and get paid and that whole thing, which I think those players deserve. You know what I'm saying? I think we've seen even in this game, like even in this movie, that we know women can play. Like there's that scene where one of the girls does a slide and bruises her thigh.
Uh-huh.
That was real. Like
Yep.
like that
Strawberry,
actress
they called it. Yeah, yeah.
bruised her thigh like that. So like that's crazy. I mean, playing in skirts is crazy as in itself, but yeah, like uh but yeah, I wish there was this movie made me realize like we need a professional women's baseball league and hopefully we get it sometime soon.
Right. Yeah, League of Their Own. Like nobody, they don't have a League of Their Own. I don't. That's
Yeah,
kind of weird.
exactly. A league
So
of their own and they don't have one.
I kind of lied to you. Like I said, I wanted final thoughts, but I do want to ask one final question, and I just want a yes or a no from either of you. Just yes or no. Okay, you guys ready? I'm just Phoenix first, and then Johnny. Do you think Dottie dropped the ball on purpose?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think she dropped it. That answers that. You can see that in her face where she sees her being carted off. So again, League of Their Own, very, very good, blockbuster. It has a great Tom Hanks performance, talks about a very good point in history that needed to be have doors open to. So again, a great movie to talk about. Phoenix, thank you so much for your love of women's pictures,
Yeah.
having us talk about this. Again, my friend, it's so I just want to let you know how it sounds weird, but I'm so proud of you that you went back to school and that you made the decision to put on that cap and gown. It's never too old enough to do that. You sent me a photo. I'm like, damn, he looks good in that. Like it's you want that and you're still going. You're not satisfied. You want to do more. You have film code is at an end, sure, but curtain to curtain is going. Again, it's a great energy that you two have there. And so I'm so glad that you got 5 more episodes in the can. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm glad that your voice is out there. How can people find you, Phoenix, and how can people what can people look up to find your voice?
So I am still on the Devil's app. I mean Twitter. At IMHO Reviews one. That's number one. I am also on Blue Sky. IMHO Reviews, I think. There. I Curtain to Curtain is on Blue Sky as well. It's also on Twitter. I'm sorry, not Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find our episodes on YouTube there. Like we said, I am behind on a few episodes. I do all the editing, so that's why we're behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, should be getting some more of those out soon. And yeah, that's where you guys can find me, and I'll see you guys out there shortly.
Okay. Awesome. Like I said, my friend, it's so good to have you on. It's so good to have these opinions that are only Phoenix opinions. You know what I mean? That we can have on the podcast. So again, like we're going to chat in the future. What do you have planned with your? I think you have something else planned besides Curtain to Curtain. You're talking about maybe some other film type podcast. I'm sure you have something in mind for that.
I'm thinking about it. We'll see. We'll see what time allows me to do. But yeah.
Okay, keep us in mind for that. We always love having a chat with you.
And good luck
Uh,
with that film career.
yeah,
Hopefully, the LA works out for you.
Oh yeah, hopefully.
I,
Yes.
I
That's the
think
plan.
I think you have an above the title name, Phoenix Clouden. I think that really works.
Come on, man.
A film by Phoenix-Clouden, starring Phoenix-Clouden.
Edited by Phoenix Cloud, like you could be Robert
Exactly.
Rodriguez of Ohio.
That's the plan. That's the plan entirely.
All right. Well, it's crunch time now for dialogue quotes. Again, for NostalgiaCast, we'll see you guys next time. I'm Darin,
I'm Johnny.
and now you're still missing the cutoff man. Now that's something I would like you to work on before next season.
You're not nice.
You're gonna lose.
Still will, Angel. All right, guys. We'll see you guys later.